Bold prediction time. What do you believe about this year that you would bet your money on? Well, we got some boldness tonight, and then we got one that I don't think's bold at all. So a very, very mixed sort of potpourri of boldness in the show this evening. Let's go with the first one, and it takes us to the Big 12 from Oklahoma City. Oklahoma will take the Big 12 championship with us on our way out of the conference and play in the college football playoff. Brent Venables proves the haters wrong. I put an 8.25 on this prediction. So Oklahoma has the second best odds to win the conference. This wouldn't be bold. But remember, they got to win the conference and they got to go to the playoff. Oh, and by the way, they've got to recover from barely making a bowl game last year. So I know their over-under win totals like 9 or 9.5. That's not a guarantee. That's just a number Vegas puts out. So this is almost like a bold prediction / a what if. You know, we do the what if segment on the show as well. What if Oklahoma wins the Big 12? What if Oklahoma goes to the college football playoff? Think about the turnaround on the national narrative around Brent Venables. We haven't necessarily done the whole what is your opinion on Brent Venables thing yet. There are some folks who have already sold their stock on him. He's barely been in his office a calendar year. And I'm certainly not there yet. There's a lot that remains to be seen, but man, when you're recruiting and portaling inside the top 10, in other words, when you're making sure you have talent and you're nailing it at the quarterback position, I'm not giving up on you after 1 year, not even close. And I ain't giving up on Brent Venables, not even close. So that's the whole what if part of it. But the bold prediction here is they just will win the Big 12. They will go to the playoff. It's all about defense. They were 99th last year in points per game allowed. That has to change, obviously. You would think you got the right head coach to try and make that happen. Here's the producer Jesse stat that I keep throwing at you. When it comes to odds, when you look at the Big 12 and you line all the teams up and you look at the odds to win the Big 12 championship, Oklahoma's got a really workable schedule by Big 12 standards. They play 7 of the 8 bottom teams on the odds list. Does that guarantee anything? No. But certainly if you're looking for favorability and your way to snake your way to 10 or 11 wins, yeah, that's favorable. Also, remember, everyone's criticizing Georgia for their soft schedule this year. Well, part of the reason Georgia's schedule is a landfill is because the SEC stepped in and made Georgia cancel a game with Oklahoma. Yeah, that happened. Wasn't Georgia's fault. Wasn't Oklahoma's fault. Everyone looks at the Georgia side of that equation. How about Oklahoma's? I take Georgia off this schedule, and all of a sudden, SMU is their toughest out-of-conference game. Now, SMU is not a joke, but SMU is not UGA either. So I make this an 8.25 and no bolder because I think it could happen. It's a tough year 1 to year 2 jump, but this is not out of the realm of possibility at all. Oklahoma in the playoff, though. That's why it's an 8.25 and not 7.5 or 7. Let's go to the Big 10. Wise from Columbus, Ohio. Just Wise. He said both Ohio State and Michigan are 11-0 when they meet in the game, and they both make the playoff. Notice that second part there, a lot of emphasis. So when's the last time this happened? Last year. If you need case study, if you need to know what this could look like, just go back to last year. Oh, by the way, I think I should say that sentence like this. When is the last time that Michigan and Ohio State faced off undefeated and both went to the playoff? Last year, as predicted on this show. Everyone loved to throw that Iowa State prediction at me from 2 years ago, knowing full well that was made with heart, not head. But everyone wants to leave out the fact that, yeah, we just flat out called this happening, saw it from 10 miles away. Well, is it going to happen again this year? They both have the same win totals, 10.5. Ohio State now slightly favored to win the Big Ten. That just keeps jostling back and forth. Jesse, look up the word jostling for me. Is there a T in there? This is the time of year you want to learn out of the bright fall spotlight. So I guess if we're going to take a vocabulary lesson, tonight's the night. Michigan has one opponent with a win total over 7. Bad schedule. Well, good for them. Bad if anyone wants to be entertained by watching Michigan outside of Michigan this year. That is the trip to Penn State. That's it. That's after the Purdue game. That is the second week, I think, in November. That's the only opponent they have with a preseason win total over 7. Ohio State has 4 of those teams, and that would be Western Kentucky, believe it or not, yes, Western Kentucky, Penn State, they got Wisconsin, they got Notre Dame. The last 2 are on the road, by the way. So Ohio State's got a tougher road to get there. They're going to be favored. Both of them are going to be favored to do this. They both have top 4 college football playoff odds. They need some things to fall, though. Not to be undefeated when they play each other. They control that. But for both of them to make the playoff, remember, last year, Tennessee just went and got bodied by South Carolina. If that doesn't happen, Tennessee's probably in the playoff. USC lost the Pac-12 championship game. Caleb Williams is hurt. Utah fans would say that's not what decided the game. My point is we can't know one way or the other. But USC losing the Pac-12 championship game, that also opened the door for Ohio State to get back in there. If either of those things doesn't happen, Ohio State's out. So you gotta have things go perfectly and some luck. And in this scenario, you probably need Michigan to win the game because Michigan's got the softer schedule. It's far more likely Ohio State could afford a loss, and their strength of schedule, like it did last year, would still boost them in there. I don't know a Buckeye fan worth his or her salt that even wants to entertain that, though. They just want to win the game. Take care of it that way. In the Pac-12, bold prediction from DJ. He said Utah will three-peat as Pac-12 champs from Salt Lake City. Producer Jesse, the Cam Rising of our office, offers the following feedback. We don't know about Cam Rising. Signed, Cam Rising. He's talking about health. I assume he'll be ready to go for fall camp. And that's a bold assumption, but we are nothing if not bold around here. There's like a 6-pack of contenders in the Pac-12. And when I say that, I mean, if you look at the odds, or if you just look at it with your own eyes, you know that you got USC, you got Oregon, you got Washington, Utah. And Oregon State and UCLA also round out that top 6. And once you get past that, it's a pretty steep drop-off till you get to pretty much the back half of the conference. So here's the thing about Utah's schedule. Out of all the teams in that top 6, Utah is the team that has to play the other 5 in that top 6. So it is not an easy schedule whatsoever. They are 23rd in returning production, which is pretty good, but USC, which figures to be a team they would have to jump over, is 10th. And I am, for that reason, making this prediction an 8.75. The odds are never in Utah's favor. They always defy them. And so this is no different. It's not me doubting them. It's just me understanding in the preseason, I would lean other teams over Utah, which is their existence. And they make fools out of people who say sorts of things like that regularly. And they'll have to do it again because I'm saying 8.75. However, if you want to be entertained, they open against Florida and they play Baylor, I believe, the very next week. So you got to give 2 thumbs up for Utah scheduling tough out-of-conference games, knowing they still got to play a really, really tough stretch in conference. Last bold prediction. You tell me how bold you think this is. This is from Austin, Texas. I think Florida State finishes with 8 or fewer wins, no ACC championship game. How bold is that? 8 or fewer. I put this at 6.75. Although it's not the way I'm going to predict Florida State's season, this is not bold because if you're doing the whole prediction thing, kind of like if you're an odds maker, if you're setting the over-under win total, which is 8.5 for FSU, you have to take all possible scenarios into account. So there's the one scenario where Jordan Travis and company, they shine all year and Florida State's undefeated regular season and they go win the ACC championship game. Yeah, that could happen. But also, there is the flip side. This is sports. It's not scripted. This is real life. And the flip side would probably include things like that blue chip ratio only being at 41%, costing Florida State. And that flip side would probably leave you to conclude that all the hype for Florida State was a mirage built on beating Georgia Tech, Miami in a terrible year, Syracuse, Louisiana, Florida in a terrible year, lost to Oklahoma in the bowl game. Like that built the hype bubble for Florida State this year. And what is it really based on? I said they lost. They beat Oklahoma in the bowl game. But that's what the hype bubble's built on. Now, I don't necessarily care about that, because you play who you have in front of you, and you win the games. And I don't care if they were ranked or not. Like, you took care of your business. What I'm saying is, if things go sideways this year and they don't win more than 8 games, it probably would be, as it turns out, the hype was a little bit of a mirage. And the reason I don't think it's so bold to suggest that is because I've seen it happen a million times before. This would just be 1,000,001. So am I high on Florida State? Absolutely I am. Do I acknowledge that I could be wrong? Yeah, that's what this whole segment's about. So that's only a 6.75 for me. Florida State going 8-4, for example. Predicting that is not bold. Their over-under's 8.5, guys. That is not bold at all.